Greek geographers like Alexander and Hecataeus of Miletus, now in Turkey, also prepared world map by arranged places from east to west and north to south. They prepared maps based on their travels and descriptions. They placed Greece in middle of the map. They also divided the world into 3 continents: Europe, Libya, Africa, and Asia, all of which were separated by the Mediterranean Sea. Romans were greatly interested in making maps and knowing about places near and far. They wanted to conquer the world, build colonies in far-off places, and trade with them. Alexander, Greek king, tried to conquer the whole world and come as far as India some 2300 years ago. Similarly, Roman traders had established trading stations on India, coast to which they came by ship. Maps were useful and necessary for them. Greeks tried to make the maps accurate with the help of longitudes and latitudes. Let us see how this was done. They tried to find out a set of places where the midday occurred at the same time. They were joined with a line from the north to the south. This was the meridian, noon line, or longitude. They also tried to draw latitudes by joining places which had equal length of shadow at noon. With the help of these 2 kinds of lines, they draw a grid on the map and located all the places from east to west and north to south along these lines. Preparing these lines accurately was not an easy task, and it took about 2000 years to finally get correct longitudes and latitudes. Locating places on maps with the help of these 2 lines became very useful for travelers and sailors. Ptolemy was one of the most famous geographers of ancient world who prepared detailed maps of the world using latitude and longitude lines. These maps give more correct information of Europe and nearby countries. They also give more correct information about places visited by sailors and traders. Sailors did not know about the interior places. Thus, one of the map of Asia, you can see India shown much smaller than Sri Lanka, as the sailors were more familiar with it. The books of Ptolemy were used by the Arab scholars and sailors to prepare maps. The famous Arab map maker Al-Idrisi, who prepared the world map for his king in 1154. The map with legends written in Arabic while showing the European continent fully only shows the northern part of the African continent and lacks details of the southern Africa and Southeast Asia. Firstly, map shows the south towards the top of the map and northwards the bottom. It places Arabia prominently in the center of the map. Chinese also were preparing maps as their emperors wanted to know about the villages and towns under their control. See the map of the Ming Hun Itu, printed on 17 square meters of silk in 1389 for the Emperor of China. Before they discovered the books of Ptolemy, European map makers were greatly influenced by religious ideas of the Bible and made maps of the world to represent those ideas. This really was a model of the world according to the Bible. It is surrounded by oceans and is divided into 3 continents: Asia, Europe, and Africa. This Asia was considered the largest and the most important as it had Jerusalem, which was the birthplace of Jesus Christ. It is shown on the top of the map. Europe and Africa are shown at the bottom and in a smaller size. In 1480s, Europeans rediscovered Ptolemy's books and they were stunned to learn about his accurate description of location of places. Europeans prepared new maps based on them. Arabs had blocked the trade route to India across the Mediterranean Sea. West European traders from Spain, Portugal, Holland, and England began to search for other routes to India. Thus, Columbus went westwards and discovered America, while Vasco da Gama went around Africa and reached India. All this also helped to prove that the earth was not flat disk but a sphere like a ball. In the 16th century, Holland emerged as a major trading power. The father of Dutch cartography was Gerardus Mercator, 1512 to 94, who examined the previous works, did such original work on maps. Mercator's map projection is famously known Mercator projection. Most of the world maps we use are based on his projection. Projection in a map. Mercator devised a method for showing the correct shapes and directions of continents but with distortion of sizes and distances. This method is called Mercator's projection. It is still used to show the world. When the British established their power in India, they began making detailed maps of the interiors of the country. They established a department called Survey of India to survey the entire country and prepared maps. James Rennell was appointed as the Surveyor General and he prepared the first survey-based maps of India. Created during the British period and compare it with a current map. In 1802, William Lambton began one of the most important geographical survey in the world, starting from Chennai in the south and culminating in the Himalayas to determine the length of a longitude and also the heights of various places. This survey was completed by Sir George Everest. This survey, which established that Mount Everest is the highest peak in the world. It was named after George Everest, who measured its height for the first time using scientific method. The survey began in Chennai because all heights are measured from the sea level. Maps were also in great demand during times of war as armies and air forces needed them. Thus, map making received great importance during the first two world wars. Many governments tried to keep such detailed maps secret so that enemies could not use them. In our times, the use of satellite images has transformed the nature of mapping. We not only have very accurate and detailed maps, but it is no longer possible for government to keep them as secrets. This information is available to all people for study and use today. Use of maps in our times. Maps were made and used for a variety of purposes, for trade, sailing, and colonizing, and for fighting wars. In our own times, maps are used extensively for planning, development of countries. By making maps, we can identify the problem faced by a region and its resources. Example, the regions which have very little drinking water, we can compare this map with maps showing water resources, rainfall, groundwater, and rivers. Based on this comparison, we can decide what is the best way to make drinking water available to all the people of the region by sinking tube wells or building dams across streams or making tanks, cherivos, or bringing water from distant places in large pipes. Similarly, we can plan agricultural development, setting up new industries, buildings, roads, hospitals, and schools with the help of maps. Maps are also used by companies to plan their business work. For example, a mobile telephone company that wants to spread its network in an area will need maps of villages and towns and about hills and forests to set up microwave towers. Reading thematic maps. Maps representing a particular topic or theme are called thematic maps. Example, political maps, which give information about mandals, districts, states, countries, capitals, etc. Physical maps, which show mountains, rivers, plateaus. Land use maps, which shows how people use land. For example, some parts of the village lands may be used for pasture for raising food crops, for raising cash crops like cotton. Population map shows the density of population and thinly populated areas. A climatic map shows rainfall, temperature, direction of winds, air pressure, etc. The commercial map shows the areas of agriculture, mining, industry, trade centers, etc. When we make a map to show the use of land in that village, we have to use different kinds of symbols, colors, and patterns to show each of these separately. In representation of various socio-economic aspects, details, we can use the technique of map patterns like points, symbols, lines, etc. Quantitative data can be represented by dot method, circles, graphs, charts, etc. In stipulated thematic maps, shading can be used as pattern. Make a population map. Population can also be shown on a map through shading. These are called population density maps. First, we estimate the total number of people living in a place. Then, we measure the total area of the place and then divide the number of people by the area of the place. For example, if the area of a village is 10 square kilometers and 1000 people live in it, the population density of the village is 100 per square kilometer. By using the same method, we can find out the density of people of entire state. See the following table, which gives the population density of different states of India. Density of population, year 2011. Conventional symbols on maps. Map makers usually use their own symbols or used conventionally by most makers. In India, we usually follow the convention used by the Survey of India. For example, the conventional symbols are the topo sheets of Survey of India. Relief features on maps. Relief feature means the high and low places on the surface of the earth. The main relief features are hills, valleys, plateaus, plains, river basins, rocky and sandy places. Since the map are flat, we cannot show the height on them. We therefore use a special symbol called contours or contour. Contours are lines on map joining places of same height measured from the sea level. In the other words, all places on a contour line will have the same height from the sea level. Contour lines are also called isolines. Lines joining places with some common features. Contour lines are usually drawn at fixed intervals of height such as 20 meters, 50 meters or 100 meters. Contour lines give an indication of the slope of the land as well as the elevation above sea level. Where contour lines are far apart, it represents a gentle slope. Closer lines represent steep slope and uniformly spaced lines represents uniform slope. Atlas. An atlas is a collection of maps usually arranged according to different themes. You can find out much useful information about different places and use it to imagine the life of the people living there. Different kinds of thematic maps, that is, relief and Drainage means annual rainfall